Well, hello everyone. This is Alan and Jill from Brief Cameo Productions, here to just chat with each other about our upcoming project. And Jim is going to edit it together so we look smart while we're doing it.
Thank you, Jim.
Right? Jim couldn't be here. He is literally at Ivoryton Playhouse right now, calling a 2-show day. So we're going to soldier on and make the best we can. But we're here to talk about January's project, Masterclass, which is a little bit of a different show for us because normally we're doing like a big musical theater, concert
Giant,
version.
big,
Yeah,
large, long.
giant cast, huge ensemble, multiple characters.
I'm only saying this because it almost kills me dead to do these week-long projects, but I love it. But it's there, yeah. I'm happy not to be, playing 8 shows of ragtime back to back. It's awesome.
Right. So for those who aren't familiar with Masterclass as a play, it basically re-envisions Maria Callas, arguably one of the most important opera performers of the last century. It posits that she's teaching a masterclass. It's based on an actual series of masterclasses that she's taught at Juilliard. But there's 3 students that come in that she works with, 2 sopranos and a tenor. And Sonnambula is the aria that the first soprano that she works with chooses to sing. So it's kind of fitting that we start with something from very early in her career that's very much about beautiful voice, beautiful singing, and then we sort of move forward as we go.
Mm-hmm.
I think we best describe this one as a play with music, and it allows us to sort of dabble in the opera world without trying to do a full opera. We touch on 3 different works. Nobody ever gets a full aria out, hardly.
No. Which is typical. Yeah, and if you were asking if there was, why these 3 arias, why did Terrence McNally choose these 3 arias? To have something to say about the character? Are they high points in her career? Yes, they were. The Sonnambula aria for sure was her first big success. She was young. She went on to do another couple of productions that were, again, highly, highly successful. So, and she kind of brought that edge of bel canto opera back into vogue. It was coming back into vogue with Joan Sutherland and Richard Bonnage as well. So it was this upswell of, we hadn't heard that style of music had fallen out of fashion pretty badly until they started picking it up again. That kind of bel canto, definitely bel canto sound of Sonnambula. Bel canto being beautiful singing. For those of you who are not opera nerds like me, bel canto is a period of opera, like you had Baroque, classical, bel canto, then Verismo. So that kind of puts you through those composers. The style is very, as you can hear, gorgeous melodies, not very complicated orchestrations, and the focus pretty weak. Play construction. These are not cutting edge dramas. They would never win the Pulitzer for, their stories. So the focus was really on the voice and how the singer could use their voice to act through this story and to evoke emotions out of the audience. Yeah, and then the Lady Macbeth aria, I think, is in there because we associate the opera is not as famous as the Shakespeare play. Are you surprised? I mean, in the opera world sometimes, but in a weird way, that there is a metric in the opera world. If an opera is based on a Shakespeare play, if it's more famous than the play, then that's a big success. Examples? One is Falstaff by Giuseppe Verdi. Falstaff, of course, is a very minor character in
Merry Wives of Windsor.
Yeah. The last aria we didn't talk about was from Tosca, which is another one of her most iconic roles. And if you haven't seen her performance of Tosca on video, you need to watch it. That's for everybody out there. It's stunning. But the most famous aria, not the one in our show, but the one she sings, is I gave it all for art. I gave it all for music.
Visi d'arte, visi di amore.
Exactly. And that pretty much defines her in my head. She gave it all. Whether it was giving it all on stage or in her personal life, she gave it all. I'm all for our current trend of being really super specific as an actor in an opera. I'm all for that. So let me just frame that by saying that. But let me defend a little bit some of the bad acting of the past, for sure. Opera, especially in the bel canto era and in the golden age, which saw the resurgence of this bel canto repertoire, acting with your body was never a primary concern. What was the primary concern was your voice and your interpretation of it and getting it into the house. It was a connection very much between the throat and the mind of the singer straight to the audience. And not a lot of anything else really mattered. There were no stage directors at that time. Did you know that?
I did.
And there were
that's what's interesting.
Yeah, and there were no costumers. You'd bring your own costumes, and you'd go and that's what the maestro is still called, the maestro, because they were the person in charge. And they actually had, if you staged anything, it would be the maestro saying, okay, line up back there. And then you know what to do. This is Tannhäuser. Yes, you start there. Okay, let's go. And the baritone would walk up and say, for my aria, when I do this, I like to go here. And then they're like, great, like Shakespeare, folio versions, right?
Mm-hmm. It was almost a devised piece in that regard. The composer wrote it, the orchestra played it, the singers sang it. And that was
yeah, very much. But that doesn't mean that the singers of the era weren't concerned with the drama of what was happening. It just didn't happen in their bodies. But if you listen to what they're singing and listen to the way they're singing it, dealing with the text, but also illuminating, the whole reason we go to opera is because we sing, because when language fails us as human, we augment it with music. At least you and I do, because we're music theater people. But that's the whole reason our opera happens, is because you can hear someone say a sentence, but unless you hear Bellini said it to music, you're not really, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if you listen to the way that Maria Callas sings the beginning of the Sonnambula scene, you really focus in on the way she's singing her words and the way Bellini set the text, and you will hear what she's feeling.
If the music got faster to signify an emotional shift, would that be a presto changeo?
Jim.
He's gonna tag that onto the end in like if there's a blooper reel. That'll be my